Hey guys, today's gonna be kind of exciting. We are going to replace this empty hole with a gull wing door that's gonna be able to open all the way up and shut and lock with a key. I just love the idea of having access into the van from the side of it, and that's super cool. If you're new to the channel, then here's a quick recap. I'm building this van to be basically a camper van that can be very multifunctional. So let me go ahead and show you what stuff we need. So first, I'm using Lexan, which is a very, very strong polycarbonate plastic that will not break or shatter, and it should last a very long time. Then I have a piece of cardboard to basically trace out the window. So then I can translate it onto this piece of Lexan. To be honest, I'm not sure of how I'm going to cut the piece of Lexan, but I'm pretty confident I'm gonna use this jigsaw. So I got a cheap one from Lowe's, it's Black & Decker. Should get the job done just fine. Have a weather stripping that will go around the whole window so the window won't leak. I have this stripping that literally goes around the plastic so it can have a better, secure, snug, waterproof seal. I have two of these nifty locks, pretty cool. Got it from Amazon. These are the hinges I'm going to use for the door. I have some struts to be able to open the door all the way and keep it open. Paint, because I'm painting the window black, and I'm going to basically rivet nut everything into place with these rivets and this riveter. And finally, of course, I have a drill with 3/16 drill bit for these rivets. We need to size up the window on this piece of cardboard. So let's go do that. And I'm gonna be honest, this is the first time me doing something like this. So just bear with me. And all the items I just mentioned will be in the description down below so you can check them out. That's it. Let me go cut this out. Okay, so I tried my best to cut an inch around the whole thing. That's what I have so far. I need to clean this line up, get this curve in there, get this curve in there, and come all the way around. Breaking open the jigsaw. Here's the blade it came with and the instructions. Just with any power tool, you want to put on some type of safety gear, glasses and gloves. I'm gonna do a test cut right here just to see how. Yeah, that's gonna be easy. Just finished cutting it all. I need to smooth out the edges and make it just kind of straight with sandpaper, and we should be good to paint it. Can you bring it over here now, please? Please and thanks. You're my videographer now. All right, so anytime you're sanding, make sure you put on some safety gear. You don't want to breathe in this stuff. I'm gonna sand out the edges, smooth it all out, then I'm gonna scuff both surfaces and get it ready to paint. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I want to test fit this real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and trim this real quick. Nice and perfect. This is just a sneak peek of what it's gonna look like. This is looking pretty good. All I need to do is sand down this edge and sand down this edge, and it'll fit nice and perfect. But that looks so good. I'm so excited for this. All right, so this is all sanded up. Now I'm gonna clean it with some acetone. Acetone. All right, so I'm painting with this Rust-Oleum gloss protective enamel. Should look pretty good. The paint's dry and it looks pretty fantastic. It almost matches these tinted windows. I went ahead and put the weather stripping around the window and it really looks good there. So the next thing I need to do is go ahead and clean up this edge so I can have a nice clean surface so I can attach my gasket to it. It'll be weatherproofed. So let's go ahead and get some sandpaper and clean all this up. 120 grit sandpaper. Okay, I just sanded all the edges. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up. I'm gonna do this a few more times and I'm gonna paint it with a paintbrush. I'm gonna use rust protective enamel. I usually only use Rust-Oleum, but I have Crayon here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use it. Here's the paint, here's my paintbrush. Let's see how this goes. Nice. Let's go for a second coat. Okay, so let's let that dry. So there'll be one lock here, another lock there, and I'm gonna have 3 hinges on top. So, and you're gonna see all the hinges on the exterior. I thought about putting the hinges on the interior. I'm using rib nuts, and the rib nuts will have to go through this, this edge here. And if I did that, I don't think I would have a good seal. So I'm just gonna do it where the hinge is on the outside. So it might not look as great as I wanted it to. It's still gonna look fantastic though. 1 and 2, then 3 hinges. I'm gonna try my best to make it as even as possible here. About right there. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'll measure it from this edge. Okay. Let me go ahead and measure that distance from the edge to the bottom hole. About 3.5, okay. So I need to go from 3.5 on this side. So that right there is about 3.5. Just gonna even it up as much as possible. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and drill out these holes. For these rivets, I need to get up to the size of 3/16, but I'm gonna start with this one, about half the size. Okay. That works. Just like that. Now we're gonna measure straight across and mark the middle point so we can put the 3rd hinge directly down the middle. So that's 58 centimeters. So 58 centimeters divided by 2, that's 29 centimeters. Okay. Let's go ahead and paint all these holes so they don't rust in the future. Oops, that's a little messy. Let's go ahead and let those dry. Meanwhile, this is all dried up, or dry enough where I can start test fitting the weather stripping. So here's all the weather stripping. What's cool about this is that it's very low profile, and I need something low profile for this window. So let's go ahead and see how well this weather stripping does. I got it from Amazon. So it came with this sticky tape, it looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply that all around the window. This is kind of difficult to put on straight. Okay. From factory, they cut this slanted, so I'm gonna cut it as straight as I can. Pretty straight, looks good. And it's also sticky on the bottom of here. You can put it almost in the middle. The seal is pretty tight, it's not pulling off easily. So I have good confidence in this gasket. It's from Amazon, so we'll see whenever we have the window on. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. Ugh. So, one down. That's the first time actually riveting something in something. That's basically how it's gonna look. Super flush. No one can take these out unless you have a drill on hand. So it's gonna be fantastic. These are all in. I'm going to go ahead and cut a cardboard piece that will fit nicely around this. Then I'll trace that onto the Lexan. So I got the cutout and I got this lock. I'm just gonna place it right in there. Then here's the lock, place into his spot, and you just kind of tighten that into its position. And it's gonna lock in place just like that. I just need to measure an even distance on both sides to place it. Okay, that's one. That looks good right there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and drill holes in each 4 corners and then use a jigsaw to cut it out, then spiral it all down. See it creating scratches? I did not think about that. Dang, that's disappointing. Nice, that looks good. Ta-da! I ended up sanding down the front face because obviously the jigsaw started to carve lines into it as I started cutting it. So I sanded it all down with the same grit paper that I sanded it down the first time. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do another coat of this gloss enamel protective. That was the end of this can. I was actually thinking of doing 2 coats, but since this can does not have enough for 2 coats, make do with 1 coat. It's now the next day, or 2 days after. Yes, I got a haircut. Decided to clean up a little bit, been feeling a bit shaggy. The last I left off was basically, I ended up having to use 2 different paint cans because the paint I first used, I ran out of. So I had to use 2 different paints, and that ended up looking like complete crap because I had to rush it because I ended up being rained out. I had to bring the van back into the garage, and I had to rush that paint job, so it looked terrible. So I sanded it down. I tried the gray looked bad, and then I went back to Walmart and I used the same paint that I used at the very beginning, and it looks 1,000 times better. Not perfect, but it looks a lot better. Once again, I'm not claiming that I'm a professional. I'm just kind of doing a DIY gull wing window, and so far it's turning out pretty well. I'm happy with it, and this is basically how it turned out. It looks pretty good. Those are where the locks go. I drilled out the holes on top for the hinges, and it's basically ready to go. You can see the shine of the Astro van right there. That's pretty cool. But now it's time to go ahead and rivet this gull wing window in. Nice. Now let's install this lock. These hinges are installed. Everything's installed besides the strut. Pretty nice. And I looked all around all these sills and they're pretty on point. Water should not be leaking through these sills. All right guys, so this is basically the gull wing window. There are quite a few things I will do differently. For one, and most importantly, is to use an actual piece of metal. This Lexan I thought was a good idea, and it really wasn't because it's way too flimsy. And with it being flimsy, I was unable to use the strut. And you can kind of see when I open this up, you might be able to see that it's way flimsy up here. I really only have one spot for a strut that can bolt on nicely, and that's on this side. And if I bolted on just one side, this side would be up and this side would be kind of slanted. And that's because it's flimsy, right? It's Lexan, it's not a piece of metal. I put in these rivets and the rivet gun just slid off and scratched the window. But hey, it is what it is. If you're doing this at home, be sure to grab a piece of metal instead. Don't use a piece of Lexan. piece of metal that's strong enough to, when you hold on one side, it shouldn't bend too much. You want it to be very strong. But I do plan on replacing this with a piece of metal down the line whenever I start painting the van. So this is gonna stay for a little bit and see how it holds up, and I'll give you an update whenever I start painting the van or just as we continue to build on this van. Here's the window. Looks pretty solid. As you can see, the scratch is right there. Has a nice sill, but you know, it's wobbly, right? It's flimsy. Nice sill, looks pretty good. Here's from the inside, doesn't look bad either. You have these guys right here and right there. And the way you make this tighter, basically you unscrew this and tighten up this nut right there. That's how you make this tighter. So I'm gonna do that in a minute. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. And once I use the metal instead, I will install that strut, because ideally the strut should pick up the entire piece of metal without it being flimsy like this Lexan, because I need the strut to be working for the plans I have for this window. But yeah, if you are on a budget and you want to do a cheap DIY gull wing window, this is how you do it. I made a few mistakes, so you don't have to at home. I'm gonna go ahead and put everything I use in the description down below. I'll even add the Lexan in case you want to make a Lexan window for your own purpose. For this purpose, it's not the best way to do it. It looks good for right now, right? But guys, that's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and press that like button, subscribe, and press the notification bell. I obviously have a lot to do with this van. There's a lot to do. Yeah, so stay tuned. This is Chris AutoMotivate. Always appreciate one another. I'll see you next time.